I hate to break it to you, but you do have to do Tesla maintenance, tire rotation. So we're gonna show you and tell you how to make sure you're safe on the road. Tire maintenance is so important, and I could tell you from my experience. My 2020 Model Y crashed. I actually hydroplaned, and the tread depth wasn't as deep as I probably wanted it to be, and that's probably one of the reasons why it happened. So this is really important for me, and I think for everybody to know, to like every now and then check your tires and making sure that you have the right tread to ensure your safety. There's like gauges you can buy and then like actually check it, right? So tire shops should have that, but if you don't, you just get a penny and you put it through every single groove of that. And if you can see the top of Lincoln's head, then that means that you're probably close to changing out your tires. When you do this process though, you want to make sure you don't just do the outer wall, right here. You want to go every single wall, making sure that all that depth is even. Because one thing about the X, for example, it does have some inner tire wear, and the insides might be super wore, but then the outside might be still really, really good. So just for specs, if it's like less than 4/32, that's about the time that it starts to pretty much be an issue. The second thing regarding tire maintenance is this makes me so mad when it happens to me, but it's when you get leaks, right? When you have that, first of all, you can curse, you can get mad, it's okay. But the second thing that you want to do is just inspect the tire itself. And if you have someone, you could kind of rotate it or like move the car so you could see it, right? Be careful though, don't hit yourself. But you're just gonna visually inspect in a nicely lit area. The second thing I think is you wanna hear and see if you can hear like air leaking. It'll be like if you ever like had a basketball and it punctured or something, you can hear like the air seeping through. I've had nails, I've had like shards, I've had metal plates that was lodged all the way in. One thing to keep in mind is anything inside this area usually is fixable. Once it goes into the sidewall, it usually isn't fixable or recommended. If you still cannot find that leak, the next thing that we typically do is get a bottle of soapy water. You're just gonna spray the tire. I would probably make it a little bit soapier than this actually. And once it's soapy, you'll see it bubble up if there is a leak and there's air leaking out. One thing to keep in mind is if you do have it, don't pull it out right away. That's the thing that's kind of keeping the air coming out a lot quicker. So I would wait. If you have like a portable tire inflator, I would definitely use that. Try to get it to a drivable PSI like 30 at the least, you know, so that it's not right to the wheel. And then drive to the nearest tire shop, or if you have to, maybe a gas station. If you can't drive to any of those areas, you know, call AAA, call your insurance or whoever you need to, and then they could get your car towed to the nearest tire shop, and then they could get the tire for you. If tires need to be replaced early because you have a damage on the sidewall and it cannot be replaced, if it's almost brand new, you can replace just one. But if it's pretty worn, typically we recommend replacing like the pair, right, in the back or the front. The third thing is going to be about tire rotation. Tire rotation is going to be very, very important for tire wear, because if you don't rotate, it's going to wear unevenly, and that also causes more resistance, and that also can cause less range, you know, less efficiency, and also might cause a little bit of like not pleasant driving. Tesla recommends actually doing 60-50. Every 6,250 miles, you want to rotate it. So what I do is I put it on the trip, and you can actually change the name of that. Instead of trip A or trip 1, you could change the name and put tire rotation, and then start that trip. And then every time it reaches about 62-50, that's when you would rotate your tire. So you have a reference, and you don't have to figure out, like, when did I last rotate it again? There's really 3 main patterns that people use. So you got the forward cross, which means you do a forward cross this way, and then you bring these back, okay? This is the front of the vehicle. So rearward cross is gonna be essentially the same thing, but rear crosses. And then you bring the front, the back to the front. And then the X. X is what you think it is. It goes here, this goes here, and then this goes, you know, here, and this goes here. I usually do like the X cross whenever we do it on the 3 or the Y. The X, for example, actually has different tire sizes for the rear and the front. And what that means is you can't put the back ones in the front, right? So instead of doing any of these, you would just go side to side, side to side. Not only that, some tires are rotation sensitive, meaning that you can't rotate at all. So it was designed to be only in the passenger rear or something like that. So you can only have it there. You can do the tire rotation by yourself. If you have a jack, make sure you use a jack pad because it has jack points because you don't want to damage the battery. You can do it yourself, but if you bought it from like Discount Tire or something like that, like they're gonna do you for free anyway. So it doesn't kind of make sense to do yourselfer. But if you really love working on your car, yeah, be my guest. I think that's a great thing. As far as like balancing, that's something that you need more equipment. You saw it in the second part of the series, how they do that balancing, right? So that's exactly what we do. You don't necessarily have that in your garage. And then same thing with alignment, right? Alignment isn't a cheap machine. That's not something that's do-yourselfable. So if you're gonna do that, get it to a shop. All tire shops will be able to do that. When you are doing your tread depth check, if it's like super uneven on one side, that's something that you might want to look into as far as alignment goes, right? So that's when you would probably go in. The other thing is like if it's shaking a little bit, check the alignment and make sure you get aligned. You know, sometimes we just rush out and then we hit a curb and you're like, gosh, darn it, you know, like, and then you got this rash all through. And this is actually a pretty clean wheel, but this curb rash is when you like hit like the sidewalk or like a rock or a pothole, curb, you know, whatever that is. And it looks awful. So if that happens, it's okay. Just Google like wheel repair and you'll be able to find local wheel repair people. What they're gonna be doing is they're actually gonna sand it down with different levels of grit. And then after that, they're gonna repaint it. And pretty much after they're done, if they're a good wheel repair person, it should look brand new. You could also put some wheel protection around. That helps to a certain degree. Obviously, if you hit the crap out of it, it's just not gonna help. If you do wanna do a do-yourself version, let us know if you'd like for us to do a do-yourself video on how to repair your curb rashes. Maybe if we get enough requests on the comments below, we'll do a video as well. We're gonna be talking about replacing tires. In the second part of the series, if you haven't, go ahead and watch it. We talk about the process of replacing tires and wheels. The way that Tesla says it's recommended to replace it every 6 years, but instead of having it a year thing, I would really do it by the rating of the miles that you've driven, right? So all tires based on the make or the model that they have are gonna have a rating, right? So some are gonna be like 25,000, it has a very low tread depth. And then you got some that's like 40 or 50,000. That's what I would refer to as far as like once you reach those, check your tread depth, check that you don't see Lincoln's head, and if you do, then that's when you change it. So that's what I would use rather than like changing it every 5-6 years, right? I mentioned in the first part of this series a Reddit post, which I'm going to also link here, and if you just look at it, it'll tell you all the recommended tires for Teslas. And also I would look at some of the EV-centered tires and wheels. Like there's like Fast EV, there's T-Sport line. There's a lot of makes out there now that's doing tires and wheels as well. But to get more mileage out of your tires, one thing is going to be actually maintaining tire pressures. With the cold front or the warm front coming, sometimes your tire pressure will change. If you look at the inner side and the driver's side, you'll actually see the recommended cold pressure. That's what I would follow. Because if you have too low of a pressure, it's actually going to cause more rolling resistance, which again, going back to that first video I mentioned, you're going to have less range, right? So that pressure, that optimal pressure is going to be actually very important in getting more mileage out of your tire as well. Go the speed limit. I know none of you guys are going to listen to it. You know, do less 0 to 60s. That's going to be hard. It's going to be real hard. Like, this is an example. Like, when I first got my Tesla in 2018, like, my tires lasted, I think, like 11,000 miles. And that's awful. And I didn't complain because I knew how many times I freaking launched that thing because I was so excited about it. This is another one, fast turns. You know, if you act like a race car driver and you start doing all this stuff, it's causing a lot more friction, so it's going to cause more wear. So be a little bit more smoother around that. And then, of course, lastly, you know, try to go a little wider when you're in the curbs or, you know, potholes. Pay attention to the road, and that will also help elongate the tire. Hopefully this was really helpful. We try to do our best in terms of trying to really providing like what do they need to know as EV owner. Just because you know it's a Tesla, it's not that much different, but there's just a couple things that you should know in order to, you know, get the most out of your wheels and your tires. So Thank you guys so much for sticking with it. If you have any questions or comments below, happy to answer it. Just put it in the comment below. We'll see you next time. We're excited for the next series.